I've probably said this a couple of times before, but when I'm not working on the podcast, I'm working on my day job and listening to other horror-themed podcasts. Our guest tonight is the host of a podcast I regularly listen to. And it was actually recommended to me by one of our past guests, Liz. Tonight, Antonette of Grimcast Manila shares with us her unusual experiences with her interviews, her masochistic relationship with horror, and the playful yet helpful duende in their studio. Enjoy. Okay, so tonight we have a special guest because I'm a fan of this podcast. I've been listening to it actually during the start of the pandemic. I discovered a few episodes and then eventually nga, bitin! Kasi nag-stop. Pero busy. Busy ang host. Okay. Pero up to now, they are releasing episodes. We will find out when their release schedule is. Our guest tonight is Antonette from Grimcast Manila. So, you actually, for our regular listeners, I've referenced your show maybe a couple of times because there are a lot of learnings from some of your episodes that I found very interesting. Hello, Antonette. Good evening.
Hi, good evening. Thanks for having me.
Thank you also for agreeing. Question lang, quick question. When you do your interviews, do you do it at night or depending on the availability of the...
Depending on the availability, mostly at night, so we get the vibes. But
Okay.
I have done an interview in the afternoon. One interview, actually,
Yes.
who recommended me for the show. I did her interview in the afternoon. Pero her episode was super scary. So kahit na ang taas ng sikat ng araw, takot na takot pa rin. As in, kinikilabutan ako. So, yeah. Hindi pala siya exclusive sa gabi.
Yes.
Matakot ako.
Naisip ko lang kasi sometimes parang nami-mention nyo na nakakatakot na kasi yun nga medyo gabi. Anyway, first thing I'll ask is, syempre, about your podcast. How did it start? When did it start for you? Parang what pushed you to start the podcast?
Simple answer is I really, really like ghost stories. So, and the thing is, you know how at a certain age, at a certain point, you get to this place where ubos na lahat ng ghost stories ng friends mo.
Yeah.
So, I mean, no matter how often you be like, oh, my ghost story ka ba dyan? And it's like, oh, but I heard it already. So I was like, hey, what if we make a podcast and use that as an excuse to invite new people and then hear new stories? So parang couple of birds in one stone, new friends, new stories, also a podcast.
Okay.
So that's the very unglamorous, straightforward reason why.
Okay. So I will segue to a question that will tie up to your podcast. So Antonette, do you believe in ghosts?
Oh my gosh. Where did I hear that question before? Charing. No. Yes, I do believe in the mumu. Mostly because I refuse to believe that we know everything about everything. Parang, I'm open to being disproven. Kailang. But at this point, there's so much more experiences that are unexplained.
Yes.
And can't be this, parang you can't just parang dismiss them. Especially like with the number of episodes that you and I have both had. I think, I think there's enough like backing to this at a certain point. So yeah. Yes.
If I may ask, are you based in Manila or did you grow up in the province or did you grow up here?
I grew up in Parañaque, so
Okay.
very, very Manila.
Okay.
But our house has been like that ancestral house where I grew up in has been there since Parañaque was probinsya.
Okay.
Because like at some point, probinsya na yung Parañaque, beach na siya.
Okay.
Like near coastal.
Oo, near coastal. Oo.
And coastal used to be like laot already.
Yes. Oo.
Diba?
Before reclamation pa.
Yeah, so where we used to live, parang nagkaroon na ng several iterations yung land, yung house. Yeah, it's an old house with Mumu, of course. So I've been around our spooky friends for a while.
So, I heard you mentioned sa I forgot which episode. You can tell me after, pero you mentioned
I
na
probably won't
yes.
remember.
Okay.
But go ahead.
You mentioned na you for a time you were able to see spirits. Is that correct?
Yes, and I'm really glad that I don't remember it. Like I'm told,
Okay.
but then I have no memory of this. So it's maybe my brain protecting me
Yes.
from
Okay.
those experiences. But yeah, I've been told that as a child, up until a certain point, like I would be like a really creepy child just pointing out things
Mhm.
and like parang sometimes like staring into space
Okay.
as if like I was looking at something.
Up till what age nila sinasabi na you had these moments? Would you remember?
I really like I've never gone that specific with asking like my parents.
Okay.
But I'm gonna say maybe less than 7.
Okay.
Less than
Okay.
6.
Mm-mm.
Maybe less than 5. Oh my god. Sorry, I'm not sure. But like thought like young.
Yes. I-segue ko lang to your present time. I mean,
Mm-hmm.
yes, I won't go into that actual experience. Later, I'll ask the
Sure.
question. Yung experience mo with, I think it was with Richie, no? Where you saw
Yes.
something. Okay. So, so we'll go to that
Yeah.
later.
Fun
But
times.
yes.
Stressful.
Pero sobrang may learning ako doon. I'll tell you about it later. Pero
Okay.
yung, aside from that, now that you're, I mean, let's say 20s up, 20s till now, did you get other experiences where you were able to see or sense anything?
Sense all the time.
Oh, okay.
But more of like sense in a way that parang, I have a not so fresh feeling about this place.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm,
I need to go. Mga
mm-hmm.
ganon. And it's like it's nothing I can explain. Like sometimes I go into a place and it's like beautifully lit, it's like modern, and like for some reason I feel super uneasy.
Mm-hmm.
I don't necessarily know if it's paranormal,
Okay.
but parang medyo spidey sense siya.
Yes,
Tingle,
yes.
tingle, gotta go. Um, there are those. And then there have been one or two experiences um, that have happened. One of the most solid ones was Richie's episode.
Yes.
And that was the most recent, most solid one. And
Okay.
that happened during the pandemic.
Yes.
And then the other one was um here at the studio where I'm recording in.
Okay.
Fun. And then the other one was during another episode that I recorded, pero hindi ako yung nakakita, yung guest.
Okay.
But it was on my side of the
Okay.
Zoom. So that was pretty stressful.
Okay. Would you mind sharing those two stories na dyan sa studio where someone saw something over Zoom?
Oh, no. Okay. So those are two separate stories.
Okay, sige.
The one here at the studio. So I co-own a studio called Big Baby Studios.
Yes.
And that's where Grimcast is recorded through. And pre-pandemic times,
Mm-hmm.
syempre, we would, have our clients here. But after the clients leave, we have to close up shop, right?
Yeah.
And so, we're packing up. And then my partner, we're getting ready to go home. And he's sort of like closing up in here. And I'm just in the sort of common room receiving area. And it's set up in a way that there are couches kasi. And it's connected to a house. It's like a third of a house. The studio is a third of a house. And so of course, this is like super late because sometimes clients, run really late.
Yeah.
Probably like 2 plus, 2 a.m. plus.
Mm-hmm.
And at this point, I'm lying down on the couch because it's so late. I'm so tired. Like, let's go home na. And the connection to the house is this set of glass doors. Glass sliding doors. And syempre, the house is naka-off na lahat ng ilaw.
Yes.
So, at this point, the curtains were open. And since the other side is naka-off na lahat, it's like pitch black.
Yes.
And the door is actually ajar a little bit. And so I'm lying down on the couch, my feet are towards these sliding doors. And I'm like mindlessly scrolling on my phone, right? And suddenly, these are heavy glass doors that are framed with metal.
Okay.
So when you open them, kumikis-kis yung metal dun sa railing. Kasi mabigat siya. It's
Yes,
glass. And so I'm lying down scrolling on my phone. And then suddenly I hear sorry, that's like a terrible
Okay lang.
metal and metal sound.
I'll put in sound effects. Sige.
And I hear that. And I look up and all I see is the glass sort of like it's moving in its rails. So parang yung reflection
Oo.
nag-shake. Kasi parang pag binuksan mo yung door, mag-shake siya ng konti. Tapos parang, and I look into the sala and there's nobody there. And it is pitch black. And I think at this point, my partner was upstairs in his room getting clothes. So I call him up. Even if he's just upstairs,
Yes.
and call him up and go, baba ka na. And he's, why? I'm still getting clothes. Hindi, baba ka na. Basta bumaba ka na. As in, now na. Tapos wag mong bababa yung phone. As in, just keep me on the line, pero bumaba ka na. And then he comes down and he's like, oh, what's going on? And I was like, let's go. And I wouldn't tell him like what happened until we were probably like a few streets away already. And I was like, dude, bumukas yung pinto mag-isa. Tapos gumalaw siya. Tapos narinig ko siya. And I was just like, And the funny thing was, when I had looked up from my phone, it felt like forever. Pero parang nag-cycle yung brain ko into like options. Fight, flight, freeze, freak out. So I went for like, I guess the most logical option, which is to call my partner and say, baba na, now na.
Yes.
So yeah, that's how that went down. I know it sounds super funny when I talk about it now, but at the time it really wasn't. So there's an attached kwento to that.
Okay, go.
So I message my mom the next day. My mom is super religious. Not exactly happy that I have the show that I have.
Yes.
So I call her and I was like, I message her really quick. So, hey, I think I might have a problem. And I think there might be woo-woo at the studio. Like legit. And my mom naman immediately jumps into action, calls the priest friend. It turns out this priest friend is on his way to Antipolo and can come to the house the next day or can come to the studio the next day and like bless it. I'm like, you know what? Game.
Okay.
Let's do it.
Okay.
This is a problem. We have a solution. Go.
Okay.
So this priest friend, lovely guy. He comes over and he's a particularly sensitive person. How it was explained to me is that his level of empathy is like through the roof. And it's not necessarily dead people. It's also living people.
Yes.
So he feels like your vibe. So if you're like, for example, if you're a particularly nasty person, it bothers him. And he has like very visible reactions and physical reactions. Okay.
To the emotions of other people.
With whatever vibe is in the room.
Okay.
So like if there's a person in the room who means another person harm or is generally a bad person, you'll see him like start to sweat.
Okay.
Just because that energy is so negative. Yeah, so it's more of like energies, I guess. And so he comes here. Tapos papasok pa lang siya ng gate. And this is like 8 a.m. Okay. So papasok pa lang siya ng gate. I was like, oh, hello, Father. Good morning. He's like, dami ah. What do you mean po? It's like, dami ah. But it's okay. Sige, let's go. Let's come in. And he was like super calm and stuff. Um, and he comes in. And so he explains to us that there's a lot of um, spirits, but
Mm-hmm.
also non spirits on the property.
Yes. Okay.
And where the studio is, which is a third of the property, used to be a garden.
Okay.
And he's saying like by elementals or non spirits used to like chill and play here.
Yeah.
I'm like, okay. And he was like, it's probably just someone, like what happened to me was just someone making papansin.
Mm-hmm.
But specifically, what had happened to me was it was a spirit trying to get my attention.
Okay.
And he said it was a spirit trying to ask for prayers.
Okay.
I'm like, okay. So he does a sweep of the whole property, right? And so the studio, he like does this. It's like a blessing, but also he was speaking in Latin, and I heard the word exorcism.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm just like, what's that about? Anyway, so I will just support you as you
Mm-mm.
move along,
Mm-mm.
hold your stuff. So he makes around. And then he goes around the different, and he goes into the house as well. Because the way he explained it is it's like, pag magpapa-pest control ka, tapos pinapest control mo lang part of the house, basically they're gonna come back from the other half.
Yes. Uh-oh.
So he did the whole property. And when he got to the other third of the property, which is just a garage actually,
Mm-hmm.
he was like, so this is why you have a lot of moo on your
Portal.
property.
May portal.
Because there's apparently
Okay.
there's like a portal,
Mm-mm.
which is not the first time we've heard it.
Okay.
So my partner, this is his ancestral house. His dad also said the same thing. And they've had helpers through the years who would not know what previous stories were and would say the same thing. So on the other third, apparently there's a portal. And every Tuesday or Thursday, I don't know why there's a day, but sure. They nagpo-procession daw sila out
Going
of
out.
it,
Okay.
going out of it, and then they
Mm.
like just come back later on. And I'm just like, okay, cool. And some of them just sort of hang around.
Yes.
And then in one of the rooms, which is sort of like this, it's like a it's one of the under rooms in the house where there's just stuff. He sees something upside down on the floor, and he picks it up. And he's like, what's this? He turns it around, and he's like, oh, you should take care of this. It's like it's a wood carving of San Nicolas. And he's like, he's the patron saint of souls in purgatory. Um, and then you're like, so my partner's last name is Nicholas.
Mm-mm.
Well, we said that afterwards, and then he was explaining, and he was like, so that's probably why there are a lot of spirits who come to your family, because he said generationally there was a devotee of San Nicolas
Mhm.
in their family.
Okay.
Kaya lapitin yung pamilya nila ng mga like souls
Mm.
asking for prayers
Yes.
from purgatory.
Mm-mm.
So that's what he said. So basically he was like, just pray for them. If you feel something happen, you can acknowledge them, light a candle, say a prayer. It doesn't have to be anything like super elaborate.
Yes.
So if any, basically binigyan niya ako ng prescription after. Kung
Okay.
mangyari ulit yan, ganyan, ganyan, you do this, ganyan. And then he blessed a bunch of salt.
Okay.
And then
Oh, sorry.
this,
He blessed salt. Tama?
yeah, he blessed a
Okay.
bunch of salt. And then this salt, we're supposed to put them in cups in all the corners of all the rooms.
Something like this.
And
ano?
yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. So this salt apparently is supposed to absorb negative energy,
Mhm.
and it turns into water as
Yeah.
soon as it does. And I don't know if there's a scientific explanation of this. I don't know. And then as soon as it turns into water, we're supposed to replace it. And it's generally like supposed to circulate the place.
Did he tell you how to dispose of it? So you're supposed to dispose of it through running water, and you're not supposed to touch it anymore. So if you take it out of the cup, if you throw it, make sure it doesn't touch you, and throw it on running water. Pero yun yung naalala kong learning from. Kaya kung marami rin ako, four corners, meron rin ako. Meron rin ako mga rocks and all that. Pero yun.
Well, so far, parang, so since after that, it kind of like really chilled out actually. So, when I do get to check the cups, the water has evaporated already. So I'm like, nothing to throw.
Yeah.
But noted, we'll keep that in mind. And then he also had this other sort of diagnosis for the studio naman,
Okay.
which is why they're attracted from the other side of the house
Yes.
to this side of the house. Because, and since this was pre-pandemic, the studio was really active. A lot of
Yes.
musicians were coming through,
Yeah.
and sometimes we know them, sometimes we don't. And he was saying that with artists or musicians, when they come to play music, it's always a release. So whether it's a positive release, an angry one, some, because it's like therapy for them, right?
Yes.
So, if a particular musician is feeling really sad or angry, and then they just play some music and then they, release whatever that feeling is,
Yes.
then they feel better. Unfortunately,
It stays there. Yeah.
it stays here. And then it's because it's not like we knew we had to
Yes.
like cleanse the space.
Yeah.
So basically it was like compounding and then like sort of mixing up in each other.
Okay.
So the space has a lot of energy from these people releasing energy
Yes. Yes.
through making music. So that's why they're super attracted to it, because it's either positive energy or negative energy, and that's where they get strength to move glass doors.
Yes.
I guess. So
Yes.
he was like, so every once in a while, we just kind of have to cleanse the space, just sort of like let it like kind of energy reset, sort of.
How do you? Can I ask lang? How do you cleanse the space?
Nothing super like nothing super complicated. We just refill the salt and then we open everything up, we air it out. Things that we should be doing for like maintenance purposes anyway.
Okay.
But also just sort of making sure that there's a good balance of energy that goes through the space. So for example, we have someone recorded a particularly negative song.
Okay.
Let's say.
Okay.
We always try to make sure that the session still ends on a good note. So at
Okay.
least nababalance yung nalalabas.
Mm-mm-mm.
So kung may BV, at least may GV din.
Okay. Yes.
And then we like people coming through, even if it's not to record, just to like hang out.
Okay.
Para lang mabalance din nga yung energy. And then when we have to cleanse stuff, we open everything up. We sort of kind of just set our intention for it. I know that sounds super new age, but like bear with me.
No. If you've heard some of the stories we've heard, New Age is normal.
Okay, cool.
Okay.
I feel accepted. Charing.
Okay.
And we just kind of set a good intention, maybe light a candle here and there. And just be like, oh, and I was also told that if I feel weird, I can acknowledge them.
Yes.
And then just be like, okay, I know you're here, I'm here. It's like we can coexist.
Yes.
But once you're done, you can move on, like to your next, I don't know, victim. Charing, no, not what, hindi naman victim, but like to your next destination. Like this is not
Yes.
where you stop. Like this is
Yes.
not your home. You can pass by, you can hang out a little, but you gotta move on after. So, and all of that happens in my brain.
Yes.
But
yes.
apparently even that really helps.
Important question.
Sure.
Are you interviewing this priest? Please.
Um,
For the podcast.
no, I don't think I
Anonymously?
can. I don't think
Really?
I can. Um,
Sayang.
the podcast is something I do for fun,
Yeah.
right? And I'm not sure this is something, and it's a very lighthearted podcast, right?
Mm.
I'm not sure this is something that he takes very lightly. It's
Okay.
definitely not something he
Yes.
takes very
Mm-mm.
lightly.
Mm-mm.
So, out of respect for him and what he does, because he does a lot of other things
Yes.
that are a lot
Mukang.
more intense than that.
Mm-mm. Yes. For,
Blessing, a studio.
from how he instructed you, it's
Diba?
similar. It's similar to how people I've talked to na who do cleansing of houses or who do
Right.
it's similar to how yung outlook niya.
Yeah. And I was super thankful because he knows that I'm not super religious.
Yeah.
And he spoke to me in a language that I would understand.
Mm-hmm.
Which was really helpful. It's not like I'm sure you've had experiences where religious people talk to you as if they're talking down to you.
No, because I don't invite religious
Oh,
people.
well, good for
Pero
you. Um,
yeah, but I know I get it. I get your point. Yeah.
like people who try to shove their beliefs down
Yes.
your throat
Yes.
or papagalitan ka pa.
To proselytize, Mm-mm.
Like, which of course my mom did when all that happened. Ayan, kasi podcast ka pa dyan. Blah, 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 blah.
Yes.
Kaka-computer mo. Joke lang.
Oo.
Anyway, so yeah, that's what went down here at the studio.
Yeah. May question si EJ. EJ said, is he a religious or diocesan priest? Tama ba pag-pronounce ko? Diocese. Would you know? Or no?
So I don't necessarily know the difference
Yeah,
between
ako rin,
that.
EJ, I don't know the difference.
I'm so sorry, but I think he's a Jesuit.
Okay,
I
so
don't know where that falls there.
in general, from what we've heard, well, not just Jesuits, but I think Dominicans also. Jesuits are generally more open-minded to this. So there was there was an Atenean professor named Father Bulatao who was openly psychic, and he was teaching in Ateneo, and it was known with the teachers. So parang medyo open sila to it. Although he passed away na. I'm not sure if meron pang priest na ganun ka open-minded to it. Pero yeah, in general, Jesuits talaga medyo mas open-minded to it. Ano pa yung question ko? Okay, next question for that. Share ko lang. Similar to what you said about energy being released there.
Mm-hmm.
We talked to someone similar to what you said nga, it also happens in churches. Kasi people go there to air their grievances, to pray.
Right.
So yung release ng energy na stay sa church.
Oh.
And sabi niya na if it isn't cleansed properly, the energy stays as well sa church. So kaya nila ginagawa yung pausok. Di ba merong...
right. Frankincense.
Frankincense, di ba? So they know the rituals to cleanse.
Right.
Because they know energy. So yun yung nakakainis. Sorry sa mga, I hope hindi ako maka-offend. Yun yung nakakainis sa ibang religious order, let's say, na they know about this energy thing that it is released, it stays.
Yeah.
But they don't tell people about it. But they know the practice of how to cleanse, di ba? So yun yung, wala lang. Mag-rant na ako bigla about religion.
Well, I mean, tangent topic. A lot of the rituals in Christianity or Catholicism actually have parallels in paganism. I mean, this is probably an entirely
It's okay. Go
like
lang.
it's like
I
like
love
another
tangents.
podcast in itself.
Yes.
But a lot of the religious observances align with pagan observances,
Yes.
like equinoxes, solstices, stuff like that. Rituals like harvests, or like praying to certain deities, or on the other side of the coin, saints for
Yes.
certain things. Cleansing, which involves smoke. There are a lot of other cultures that cleanse with like palo santo, sage,
Yes.
pausok in general, and like I'm sure even in old Filipino traditions may ganun din. So parang again, super tangent opinion. It's super funny to me that religion is used as something to divide
Yes.
when there are so many common points all throughout.
Mm-mm.
Anyway, not super related to this
Which I
podcast.
will segue to my next question.
Oh,
What
wonderful.
what is your now? Syempre, you've heard a lot of stories and you've experienced a few things. What is your belief system, if I may ask? If you can answer, but if you don't have to answer if you don't want to.
I am agnostic, which aligns to my belief about ghosts. Neither proven nor disproven, but I'm open to either side. So, um, definitely not monotheistic,
Okay.
because I don't believe that there's just one.
Yes.
Um, not polytheistic either,
Mm-hmm.
because it's not. I don't practice like you know a religion with different gods and stuff like
Mm-mm.
that.
Mm-mm.
So yeah, definitely just agnostic, open to learning about everything. Um, open to having conversations on one side or the other.
Mm-mm.
So yeah, there. I'm agnostic, but not atheist.
Okay, yes. So, but parang you believe in a higher being. That's it. Parang ganon.
I believe in something
Okay.
bigger,
Okay.
bigger than all of this.
Mm-mm.
Parang, but I also believe that if there's something bigger than all of this, it's not something that's going to be active in your life and is going to change the course of your life. Like I very much believe that if you want something in your life, you do it. You go get it. Like you don't rely on a higher being or a superhero to do it for you. That said, um, I'm very open to people having their faiths. I respect what it does for them, but it's not necessarily what it does for me.
For you. Yes.
Does that make sense?
Yes. Yes. When I began, similar kasi to my feelings when I began the podcast. Na parang, ako parang I couldn't uh, place it into one parang definition. Basta for me, before I started the podcast, it was just
Mm-hmm.
higher being. I believe there's a
Mm-hmm.
higher being.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, not same as you na parang I didn't believe na you can ask na, oh please, I want this job. Tapos you
Mm.
pray for it and then the higher being will give it to you.
Mhm,
Ang
mhm.
naging changes for me after the podcast is, one, I did not become more religious, I would say. But I began to believe na, ito magsaskew sa belief mo is, I began to believe na if you ask for something, parang law of attraction.
Yeah,
Medyo
The
out there
Secret.
again. Medyo out there I'm not sure if napanood mo yung The Secret.
Yeah, pretty
Na,
much. Yeah, The
The
Secret.
Secret.
What is it? The Law of
Yes, the
Attraction.
law of attraction. So I've kind of felt it happen in a way. I'm still skeptical about it, but and yung mga stories na nag-align with the people we've talked to. So parang I sort of believe in it. Parang same as you. If you yun yung ayoko minsan sa mga people na let's manifest it, let's ganyan. If you want to manifest something, you still have to do to get something
Yeah.
to get to that manifestation. You cannot just say, "Oh, I'll write it in a board and
Mm-hmm,
lie
mm-hmm.
down and play Elden Ring all day." Joke lang.
Set up though. Set up though.
Oh, may nasaktan. Okay. Pero yun lang. Yun na nag-change. Pero yun lang.
Mm.
It's good to hear different point of views from different
Yeah.
people rin eh. Parang, I mean, hindi tayo, I cannot say for sure na ganito yung world or yung spiritual world, di ba? So yun lang. So it's refreshing for me to hear also different points of view from people that you've interviewed. Kasi iba-iba rin eh. Iba-iba rin yung
Yeah.
kanilang belief system in a way.
Iba-iba yung belief system and iba-iba rin yung mga experiences.
Yes.
There are people with the same experiences though, like there are commonalities,
Mhm.
but there are people with super different experiences. Like, I'm not sure if you listened to this episode where I had my friend Joni on. This is the Witch and the Baleta Tree episode,
Yes. Oo.
which is still there.
Oo.
So I really hate leaving her house at night. Like every time I leave, which way is the balete tree? I'm just going to go the opposite way.
Okay.
Um, but yeah, so what happened with her? It's actually in her family.
Mm-hmm.
It's from her lola,
Mm-mm.
and her lola, um, I forget the specifics, but then for her, she can only see. Um, I don't know if I'm mixing them up, but she can only see spirits.
Yes.
So apparently, she accidentally transferred some to her partner,
Mm-hmm.
and he can only see elementals.
Mm-mm. Yes.
So their experience of the supernatural or other world is also very different, but they're like under the same household.
Yes.
So yon, there's that, and that was a super interesting episode, albeit a little stressful.
And I will segue that to my next question. Antoinette, do you believe in elementals?
I think so.
Okay.
I
Mm-mm.
mean, the Earth for how old it's been. Come on, like we're probably not the only ones here. We don't understand everything. We don't even have a full comprehension of what goes on in the sea, right? So, parang it's not impossible. And so far, I've heard more stories saying, pointing towards, like, yeah, they're there. And it becomes a totally different story when you go to the provinces, and it's
Yes.
just a matter of fact.
Yes. Mm-mm.
Whereas in Manila, syempre, modernization and stuff, less and less, right?
May na-mention ka rin kanina na yung mom mo nga na naiinis, naiinis siya sa podcast
Oh
mo.
my God,
Okay.
yes. Hi, mom. Oh my God. They're so sanay with me now because, like, as a kid, I've always, in it, like, you know how before we didn't really have all of the pocket gaming stuff.
Yes.
So fun was getting Goosebumps books and
Okay.
like
Yes.
reading, these little, these little books and stuff. So I used to read a lot of Goosebumps and ghost stories that you tell in the dark, or is that the title? I used to really like vampires, werewolves. There was a time where vampires were like the thing,
Mm-mm.
right? So I was really, really into that, and I was attracted to all of that stuff. I was especially attracted to witchcraft.
Mm-hmm.
So loved Sabrina the Teenage
Okay.
Witch and like all of the like Bewitched, those like that's the type of content that I would always gravitate to as a kid.
So
And
so
so
so now.
I am until now, yeah. And I've parang I got the sermon pretty early about being such a negative child. So, yon, wala, sanay na sila sa akin. And
Okay.
so, yeah, my family is pretty over like me and my shenanigans. So when I told them, "Hey, I have a ghost story podcast,"
Mm.
yan ka na naman. You're asking for it.
Pero do you believe that now when you talk about spirits, they technically they gravitate towards.
For sure.
Okay.
For sure. Tried and tested.
So there are probably some here
Yeah.
around us. Okay.
Yeah, but
Okay.
I just like I'm really happy that I don't see them. Like I'm good. But for sure, and also kind of proven during the podcast.
Yes, oo, oo. Can you tell that story? Yung sabi mo may nakakita. Not again, wag mo na yung killer Richie. Yung
Okay.
nakita dyan sa'yo.
Okay.
Tama ba dyan ba? Oo.
No, not here actually.
Okay.
So, syempre, recorded over the pandemic. So,
Yes.
yeah, this one happened at home because of the pandemic. We all had to record at home at a certain for a while. So this episode was recorded at home, and my space at home is pretty clean at this point,
Mm-hmm.
moo wise,
Okay.
just because I've learned my lesson.
Mm-mm.
So this is way past the episode with Richie where he had given me advice on how to like cleanse and like close off, because it's it's kind of like every time I do a podcast, it's like a session.
Yes.
So I have to end it.
Yes.
So at this point, I'm a little bit more mature
Mm-mm.
with my podcasting
Mm-mm.
in the sense of my safety precautions.
Yes. Oo.
So this one was during a podcast, and the person I was talking to, Kat, I think she might have been the last episode of the last season. She is a wonderful human being, first and foremost. But she's also like this practicing witch, intuitive, also has her third eye blown wide open.
Okay.
And so we were talking about stuff. And then parang we both sort of really, really connected na even after the hour-long podcast that we recorded.
2 hour, 1 hour 47.
Dang, 2-hour
Yeah.
podcast. And that's with stuff cut out.
Mm-mm.
Um, we actually stayed on the phone till 4 a.m.
Mhm.
And, like the conversation started getting really personal because, like, at this point, my dad had just passed away.
Condolence.
Oh, thanks. Yeah, so I was like kind of asking her, like, do you feel anything? Or are you still able to communicate with him? Stuff like that. And then she actually, at one point in the conversation, she said, I'm not getting your dad, but I'm getting this girl who is in blue and is wearing a headband with longish hair, almost like yours. Um, and she was like, do you know anyone? And then I was like, no. And then later on, I was like, actually, a friend of mine also recently passed away. And then she was like, can you show me a picture? And so I showed her a picture of my friend. And she was like, oh, siya yung dumaan kanina. I was like, and what she did though was just pass by behind me.
Mm-mm.
Like she just passed through
Yes.
and kind of like checked out what I was doing.
Yeah.
And she was like, okay, like do your thing, Antonette. And then
Uh-uh.
she left. Parang
Mm-mm.
sort of the vibe she said was parang she just passed by, checked in to like see how I was doing, slash just parang be assured that I'm okay. Because I took her passing pretty hard. Um, she's my age. So yon. And that was pretty creepy because also that was scary, but also sad
Yeah.
in a way. Yeah. Um, and then I told Syempre, like the moment that happened the next day, I messaged like college kabarkada,
Mm-mm. Mm-mm.
the same group of friends, and I say, "Girl, this is what happened to me last night." Blah blah
Uh-uh.
blah blah blah. And then
Mm-mm.
she was like, "Oh, I dreamt of her last night." And she was
Okay.
like, "I was like, was she wearing a hairband?"
Mm-mm.
And she was like, She couldn't remember."
Yeah.
Pero parang, so I told Kat, and I think she said, "Oh, she's probably just kind of like passing by each and every one of
Yes.
you as
Mm-mm.
like a final like touch, like just checking in,
Mm-mm.
sort of by."
Mm-mm.
So yun. And I don't know, it brought some strange measure of comfort also. Because I hope it meant that she was moving on
Mm-mm.
and like not um stuck here.
Yeah.
So there. That's what happened.
Yeah. Actually, naisip ko lang, before that moment, did you believe in reincarnation?
Jury's out on that.
Okay.
Um that's the one where I will talagang say I don't know.
Okay.
But I also don't have beliefs for or against it.
Mm-hmm.
Parang, yeah, no strong opinion on whether it exists or not. Though I've had conversations where, kung mag-reincarnate ka sa an animal, anong animal gusto mo? So yeah, nasagot ko na yung tanong na yun.
Okay.
Pero nothing super serious
Mm-mm.
on that, I guess.
Kasi in general, parang, again, were you brought up Catholic or Christian?
Super Catholic.
Catholic, yeah.
With a Catholic schoolgirl experience and everything.
Kasi parang well, for me, I wasn't super into it, but from what I remember, they weren't that open to talking about the afterlife. Tama ba ako? Kasi parang, after you go to heaven. Parang ganun yung thought palagi. Hindi ko naisip na, again, after the conversations I've had, na parang, it's, again, this is my belief lang, na parang you get to choose if you want to come back. You get to choose. Free will nga, di ba? You get to choose. You get to choose what year you get to come back. Parang ganon. So parang nag-change lang yung perspective ko dun. So pwede pala yun. So, sa akin lang yun sa akin lang yun.
Well, that's super helpful. So if in case that happens, I'll just be like as far away from 2020 as possible. um, yeah, super interesting. But like, I feel like ever since I think I've had the concept of heaven,
Yeah.
but also purgatory and hell,
Mhm.
because we used to be threatened with purgatory if we didn't finish our food.
Yes.
Um, and hell is where the bad people go and stuff, and Satan and whatever. So, yun.
You mentioned rin na yun nga may tinuro sa'yo si Richie after that.
Mm-hmm.
Do you when you do your interviews, do you have some sort of ritual na rin? I mean, not ritual, but do you do some stuff before you start the conversation, knowing that you'll be talking about stuff? Just ending it, parang you cut the cord.
Yeah, just cutting the cord, cleansing the space. If it's a particularly heavy episode, he told me to do this certain thing. And then like, part of it is similar with how we cleanse the studio, which is
Mm-hmm.
just setting the intention in my head na, all right, that's it, folks. Thanks for coming to the show. But
Yeah.
may thanks for coming to the show din ako for
Oo.
them. Na
Oo.
parang, tapos na po, exit stage.
Okay, okay, okay.
You can go now, finish na.
Oo.
Come back na lang next time.
Okay.
So, yun. And so far, that has really, really worked for me.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Whether or not it's a placebo, I do not care because it works.
Yeah.
So,
wala na occurrences. At least.
yeah. Or wala akong, wala na yung really like heavy feeling because I was doing this in my home.
Yeah.
Which is a studio unit.
Mm-hmm.
So no escape, man.
Escape. Oo.
And there were times when we would record like pretty intense episode where I wake up inexplicably like super early morning. I'm not gonna say 3-ish, but it has happened.
Yeah.
And just like parang, why am I awake? I usually sleep like a log.
Mm-mm.
Why do I feel watched? So that has happened, and more very scary for me, but also annoying because I have work the next day and I can't be like doing that
Yes.
and sleep.
Oo.
So yun. He did tell me to sort of when it's particularly
Yeah.
bad.
Mm-mm.
Which just involves a candle, salt, and a plate.
Okay. Actually, nang tatanong ko sa'yo, sobrang nakaka-relate ako sa nung earlier parts rin ng podcast. For me, na when you would say na, actually scared cat ako. Sobrang akong takot. Sinasabi mo yun eh. So ako parang, pareho tayo. Pero mahilig tayo sa horror. Yes, mahilig kami sa horror. Pero takot na takot kami. Yeah.
Ang tawag sa atin, masokista.
Oo. Wala ka naman na-experience, so it's okay for you. Pero share ko lang yung journey ko kasi yun nga, pareho tayo starting with fear and yun nga, masokista nga tayo. Eventually, because of the learnings from people, yan yung mga episode nila Richie, parang naging less lang hindi ko sabing hindi na ako takot. Naging less takot na ako kasi parang I know na, okay, parang I kind of know how, again, this is my belief, I kind of know how they operate within the space. If they are seen behind me, parang okay, sige, peace tayo, coexist, wala akong ginagawa sa inyo. Mas naging ganun na lang ako. And we talk to some people na, it sounds weird again, and they say na fear attracts a certain kind of entity.
For sure.
Yeah, so if you generate that feeling, if you keep on feeling that, you can attract. So ako, ginagawa ko palagi pag natakot ako, hindi na. Okay na clear. Or anger also attracts certain kinds of entities. So ganun rin. So pag nagagalit ako, okay, mabait na tayo. So during the podcast, kasi ayoko maka-attract. So parang okay, peace and love, okay. Ganun. So parang I don't know if that will help you with your future episodes. I hope na yun. It helped me. It helped me na I can do nights na kahit nakapatay ilaw, kahit may makita sila dyan, parang okay, sige, go na lang.
No, cannot do the dark. I still cannot do the dark. Like, okay. I know I'm like an adult, supposedly.
Yes.
But cannot do the dark. Like, even if there's no podcast or whatever.
Okay.
Like, I'm so sorry to my office mates. I know that we're like conserving energy, but if I'm the last one out and it's like 11, I'm not turning the lights off. I'm so sorry. It's just not gonna happen. But No, I super get what you're saying about um fear,
Mm-hmm.
and how it attracts a certain type of um
Energy. Mm-mm.
that like wants to
Yeah.
feed on that.
Mm-mm.
So I've been sort of working on turning my fear into either fight or stubbornness.
Mm.
So um trying to let my stubbornness overpower the fear. So slightly Dune fears the mind killer,
Yeah. Oo
Chastity.
nga eh. Yun nga eh.
So whenever I start to feel afraid, I just like repeat in my head, excuse you, no, no, this is my space.
Mm-mm.
Ako yung priority here.
Mm-mm.
You gotta go away. So parang just sort of like being assertive in that
Yeah.
sense.
Mm-mm.
Which has worked so far. I mean, there's still fear, but I guess going through this process and doing what we do, it's sort of like we just learned tools to cope.
Yes.
Parang
Tools to cope.
therapy.
I like that. Tools to cope.
Tools to cope,
Oo.
to keep doing what we want to do to
Yeah.
ourselves.
Yes. Oo nga. Na-mention mo, sorry, if you do not want to dwell on it, just let me know. Pero you mentioned that sometimes you can sense eh. So I'm assuming you have that sensitivity. Again, you just, for some people naman, they do not see eh. Some people just hear eh.
Mm.
And for you, it's that feeling na parang intuitiveness. I'm not sure if that's the right word, na parang you go into a space or question lang. So,
Mm-hmm.
for example, office nyo.
Oh my
For
God,
example, office
yes.
nyo. Pagpasok mo ba, can you identify, okay, in that corner, there's something there. I don't want to see it. Pero is that how it works for you? Or do you have to be close to that area to feel it?
So it's not really like a direction specific thing.
Okay, okay.
It's more of I know this sounds super like babaw, but it's like a general vibe thing.
Yes, yes.
I don't even know if it's a spirit. I don't even know if it's mumu related.
Mm.
Like if there is just a negative vibe or negative energy in a space, I can feel it, and
Mm.
it just makes me want to run,
Okay.
like get out of there.
Mm-mm.
So I'm gonna call it an enhanced um, survival mechanism.
Okay.
Um, yeah, so I've been in places where actually, for sure, this place is haunted AF.
Mm-mm.
Let's get out of here.
Okay.
Or like, hindi ako, if I have to be in a place like that, as in, hindi na ako nahihiya pasama sa banyo,
Oo,
wala akong
oo.
pakialam,
Oo.
I need to make me, please
Oo.
come with me. Or like, can you come with me to the pantry? This was my last office. It was like really bad.
Mm-mm.
Um, my office now is pretty sanitized
Okay.
because it's a really new building, nice and shiny. But it's also in the fort, so that brings its own mix of stuff. But
Bakit? Sorry,
the
can I?
fort, I mean, it was a military base.
Okay.
Shit goes down in those places.
Okay.
My previous office in Makati was super stressful, and it's a really old building. And in this office, much as I love this company, they have not changed their furniture since like the 70s. So it's like blast from the past talaga pag pumasok ka.
Yes. Oo.
Yun talaga, as in, pagpasok ka parang, ha, alam ko wala akong nakikita, pero shit, parang daming mumu. And so I started working
So
there.
na-identify mo na marami, parang ganun. Parang pumapasok lang.
Hindi,
How does it work?
it's not like I can count them,
Okay.
pero parang feeling ko puno.
Puno. Okay. Okay. Oo. Oo.
Like, madami. Like,
Mm.
space is full.
Yeah.
Even if like there are only a couple of humans. And we used to have, at that time, the company driver stayed in the office. Doon siya natutulog. So I, na mahilig mag-OT, I sought comfort in that.
Tapang mo?
Yung mumu ba yung magtatapos ng trabaho ko?
Oo.
Hindi. So, I mean, there are times talaga, like, as in, patigasan na lang, sobrang super loud music, Carly Rae Jepsen, let's
Yes.
go.
Yes.
There was one night, so the place I was seated, my chair, is like in front of it, my table. Huge windows. Lovely view of Ayala Avenue. As in,
Mm-mm.
amazing. But at night, the window turns into a mirror because it's
Yes.
dark, right?
Yes.
And then behind me is a wall. Tapos parang merong window to the
Mm-mm.
rest of the office.
Oo.
And it's like mahaba because I'm
Mm-mm.
like on one end of the building. So I see a mirror. In front of me is a mirror
Yeah.
reflecting the rest of the office through that window. And there was a point na parang I think may dumaan.
Okay.
Tapos parang, it's like, because talaga, normal naman like
Hmm.
throughout the day or like kung may tao pag nag-OT, nakikita ko yung ulo nila, dumadaan.
Yes.
So parang dumaan, pero hindi ko siya ma-distinguish. And also, I was probably chasing a deadline. So I was just like, it's probably someone, like, alam mo yung nag-make na ng excuses yung brain mo.
Yes. Oo.
It's probably someone doing OT or like someone, maybe it's Kuya Dennis is the driver. And it's Kuya Dennis, blah, 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 blah. And then usually kasi at the end, when I'm about to leave, I tell Kuya Dennis that I'm leaving so that he can lock up the office.
Yes.
And where he stays is the back room of the boardroom. So it's this huge room, obviously with the lights off. And then his room at the end. And so I pack up my stuff and then I go to say bye to Kuya Dennis. I open the door. And he's not there. As in, I open the door and it's pitch black. And then I close the door again. It's like, well, so, ginawa ko na lang. Tinawagan ko siya. Kuya Dennis, saan ka? Nag-dinner lang ako. Great! Paalis na ako ng office, kuya. Palock
So siya
lang.
yun. Siya yung dumaan. Ikaw naman.
Kanina pa daw siya umalis. So it's like, okay, Kuya Dennis, alis na ako. Palock na lang ng door. Thanks. Tapos, syempre, tawag ulit ako sa partner ko. Hi! I just need you to stay on the phone while I pack up my stuff. Do not put down the phone until I get into my car. Thank you so much. So, yan. That was that office. And then, of course, there's always, in that office now, there's a kid, there's a lady, and there's a guy. The guy is in a barong situation and likes to watch Kuya Dennis as he works on the electricals after hours.
Okay.
Apparently. The kid runs around. So, there are a lot of times where I'd be working in my side. Tapos parang may yung parang partition. The other side is IT, so there are lots of keyboards. And I would hear like mouses clicking and keyboards clacking. So at that point, just turn the music up. How about some Cher tonight? Yeah. So those are my coping mechanisms. Not very sophisticated.
Oo. We have some more questions lang.
Go lang.
Actually, bring back ko kay Richie, again, my favorite episode. Every time someone asks me na, ano yung Grimcast Manila? So, I send that episode. Kasi yun ang favorite ko talaga.
Aww.
One of my learnings talaga from that episode. Well, I'm not sure where you told that story na you saw something.
Yes.
And the person with you saw something else.
Yeah.
So, I learned na spirits, let's say, it could be a human spirit, it could be an elemental. I think it's an elemental na from the tree. White lady sabi ni Richie, di ba? Tama ba?
Sabi ni Richie White Lady. So,
Oo.
not sure.
So parang nalaman, ang learning ko dun is, spirits can show themselves to you in whatever form or appearance that they want. Parang ganon. So sometimes, parang, same question ko, sometimes, elementals appear to us as human beings. Or they would show you something scary because maybe they're angry at you or something. So, hindi fixed yung look ng spirits. Parang, kasi tayo, let's say, tikpa lang, duwende, inisip natin fixed na yung look nila eh. Apparently, they change it depending on what they want to show you. Parang ganun. So, for me, yun yung super valuable learning ko sa experience mo. Pero can you tell us about that? Paano yung nangyari?
So what happened in that episode was also a 2-hour episode. Simply because syempre maraming kwento si Rich.
Yes, oo.
And then afterwards, so this is what happened. During the episode, um, it's a Zoom call. It was
Yeah.
one of the pandemic pods. So we were recording. He was at home. I was at home. And my partner, who is in the other side of the condo, is monitoring the recording because he's
Yes.
the engineer.
Yeah.
Um, so we're talking, blah, blah, blah. And my view of his room is basically he's seated in front of the computer. On one side is a row of cabinets that are closed. At the end of that row is the door, which is the entrance to his room.
Mm-hmm.
And then on the other side is his bed, a bedside. And that's where the frame ends. So talk, talk, talk. Up until a certain point in the episode, from the corner of the frame, and I'm so sad that we don't have video of this.
Yeah.
But from the corner of the frame, dun sa may bedside, what I see is uh, someone who looks like a helper,
Yes.
but I only see this person from the back.
Yeah.
She has a low ponytail and a baggy white shirt. Pambahay,
Mm-mm.
you know.
Mm-mm.
And she's reaching in from the corner of the screen to the bedside table, fiddling with something like as if she's trying to get something.
Mm-mm.
Fiddle, fiddle, fiddle. When she's done, she just exits the frame. Right? And at first, nagulat ako. Like, nag-react ako kasi parang, syempre, nagtatakutan, like, scary
Oo.
stories.
Oo.
And something happens. I like, I got gulat. But then, as the image stayed on, I realized, oh, it's probably a helper who didn't want to disturb the call.
Yeah.
So she's like, excuse me. Yung vibe niya, excuse me, I'm just gonna get something super quick. Bye.
Mm-mm.
Okay. And nawala na siya. And call continued, stories, blah, blah, blah. At the end of the call, so PV, my partner,
Yeah.
turns off the video, his video during the call. And so, finish na the episode, everybody turns on their cams. And then, I was like, Richie, is there anyone with you in the room? And then he's like, yeah, my partner. And I was like, by any chance, naka-white t-shirt ba siya, tas like low pony, ganyan, ganyan. He's like, no, he's like nakasando. And like matangkad and kalbo. So I'm like, and then I explained, okay, so this is what I saw.
Mm-hmm.
And then I described what I saw.
Yeah.
As I said earlier. And then my partner, si Kiwi, goes, I saw something do the same thing, but it didn't look like that. So for him, it presented as a totally different visual, but doing the same thing.
Yes.
And slightly different because this time, so for me, I just saw like the upper part of a body,
Mm-mm.
like go into the frame, reach out, and then leave. For him, what he saw was the whole person stand in front of the nightstand,
Mm-mm.
open drawer, fiddle, fiddle, and then leave. Pero just the back of
Just
the
the back.
person.
Uh-oh.
Pa rin. And for him, what he saw was a more heavy-set lady with short boy-cut hair, a striped shirt, and like cargo pants. And then did the same thing and then left.
Yes.
While we were recording, he saw me react.
Yeah.
So he thought, she saw it also.
Okay.
Okay, all good. It's not just me.
Uh-oh.
So we're like, and then he was like, there's nobody else in the room except my partner. And then I say, maybe there's another entrance on the other side. And he goes, no, the only entrance to this room is the one behind me. So if anyone came in or came out,
From the other side. Oh.
you would have seen it. I was like, well, shit. Well, shit. So I start having a little mini freak out. And it's just like, oh no. Angie, I told you I love scary stories. But it's like I draw the line with not wanting to see them.
Yes.
I don't want to see them. And like sobrang hina ako kasi sa mga like scary visuals.
Yes.
So he was like, oh, okay, it's probably the white lady from the Kalachuchi tree in front.
Mm-mm. Mm-mm.
And I was like, oh, okay. But he was like, super interesting though, why you saw different things.
Oh, different things. Oh.
I'll ask her tomorrow if you want why she did that. And I was like, yeah, if you could, that would be great. I get back to him a couple of days later. So hey, were you able to ask Lady Calachuchi what was up with that? And he was like, so apparently she was, because this was a little bit earlier on in the pandemic,
Mm-mm.
maybe like later that year in 2020. So apparently, since more and more people have been getting on video calls and
Yeah.
talking to each other online, she wanted to see if she could be seen digitally.
Yes.
So I was just like, so nag-techran si ate sa episode
Oo.
na yun. And thanks so much.
Ikaw ang
Uh,
audience.
yeah, and so basically, but also she wanted to present as something, well, our theory is that she wanted to present as something non-threatening for the both
Yes.
of us.
Mm-mm.
So apparently for me, that is a household helper
Yes.
just doing her thing.
Yeah.
And for PV, it was that image of that lady.
Yeah.
So, like, okay, this provides some insight into our brain and into our thoughts, I guess. But yeah, that was pretty stressful. And so that's when Richie told me, okay, if you're still freaked out, this is what you can
Yeah.
do
Mm-mm.
to sort of calm yourself down and stuff. So, yeah, at least that was nice. At least that was like a non-threatening instance, I guess.
But now that you said the story, but parang
Mm-hmm.
that got me thinking na, is it possible na if it was recorded,
Mm-hmm.
nothing would have been captured?
I don't
But
know.
but would mean na your partner can also see? So does he have stories that he sees spirits?
No. So
No.
my
Ah,
partner is a
okay.
skeptic, right?
Okay.
So
Okay.
he's a lot more skeptical than me, which probably is like bodes well for this relationship. Um, but he does have one story which involves this space, which
Okay.
I'm literally in.
Okay.
But
Sorry, sorry.
it's okay, it's
Oh,
okay. It's all good fun. So
okay.
this used to be a garden, right?
Yes.
So where I am now used to be the part of the garden with the bahay kubo.
Okay.
And his age versus his siblings is a bit far.
Mm-hmm.
So there was a point where his siblings were in school and he was still at home. So there would be a point where wala siya masyadong kalaro. But his dad would find him in the bahay kubo having a lot of fun.
Mm-mm.
Like a lot of fun.
Mm-mm.
And tawa siya ng tawa and blah, 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 blah. As in, parang meron siyang kalaro. And so his dad asks him, sinong kalaro mo dyan? Or like, what's going on there? And at this point, medyo baby talk pa siya. And so he says, Mugay. And then his dad goes, what do you mean Mugay, Mugay? Because that's what he just kept saying, Mugay, 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 it's Mugay. And apparently Mugay means small guy.
Mm-hmm.
And that's him trying to say small guy.
Yes.
And so his dad said, sige nga, drawing mo nga for me.
Uh-oh.
And so he draws like this tiny person with like a pointy hat and a white shirt. That's what he draws. And then his dad, like, oh, this is so cool. I'm gonna keep it. And then I'm gonna show like his mom, my wife
Yeah.
later.
Uh-oh.
This is pretty cool. So he keeps it in his drawer
Okay.
and goes on about their
Yeah.
day. And then when his mom gets home, oh, darling, darling, like I have something to show you. It's so
Yeah.
cool. And he opens the drawer and it's gone.
Yes. Okay.
And it's a drawer in the master, so it's
Mm-mm.
not something that, you know, not nobody else has access to it because it's the
Uh-oh.
master's bedroom. It's too tall for him to reach, like
Yeah.
my partner to reach at that point. So the drawing had disappeared. So yeah, that happened here. And parang PV doesn't have any memories of it
Mm-hmm.
also.
Mm-hmm.
Um, but that said, no bad vibes for me
Yeah.
on that. Like every time the story is told, it's told very fondly.
Yeah.
So like that's why I'm kind of comfortable talking about it also
Yeah.
because it's such a fond memory for them. Hindi siya negative at all.
Mm-mm.
And sort of related to that because this is a studio. This has always been a recording studio
Yeah.
because his dad was also a sound engineer and a
Mm.
musician.
Okay.
So in the mixing room, which is where they do all the edits and like the control room, basically.
Yeah.
His dad has had experiences where he'd be working stuff super late into the night. There's this one experience that he told us na working super late. Tapos alam mo yung sa sobrang pagod niya, napaidlip na siya.
Mm-mm.
Nakatulog na siya.
Yes.
Pagising niya, tapos na yung trabaho niya. Parang cool. And then there was also this other story where he was saying na he's working. Tapos parang feeling niya may nanonood.
Mm-mm.
So parang itong dad ng partner ko, super cute. He sets up a mirror in front of him. Parang, sige, hulihin kita.
Oo.
And then, parang as he's working, well, sabi niya, he saw like this little pointy hat thing over her shoulder. Tapos paglingon niya, wala.
Yeah.
So, those are the kinds of stories in this space.
Yeah.
So, I don't know, baka may duendes in the studio having a nice time whenever Mr. D like enjoying himself with the music. I don't know.
Minsan kagaya nun, yung story na tinapos yung work niya. Kasi parang, yun ang weird lang na, again, nagiging consistent sa ibang stories. Ako, basta pag may nagkwento sa akin, na interview kami, basta ako believe 100%.
Right.
Parang I believe na that's your experience, that's what happened to you. Sige, I'll believe you. So anyway, may mga consistency sa mga ganong story na sometimes there are elementals, I would call them elementals, that help. Parang ganon. Parang nakikialam sila sa life mo. And sometimes tumutulong sila. And it depends sometimes if bad vibes ka, bad vibes rin sila. Parang ganon eh. I think si Richie nagsabi nun eh, na if negative yung household, it affects the entities in the vicinity. Parang ganon. So, yun lang. Parang kung good vibes yung dad ng partner mo, like good vibes rin ay feeling ko yung si Mr. D.
Super, super, super good. Like, the whole family is super good vibes. So, I feel like whatever entities are here are also good vibes. That said, in my family home, BV. So, I feel like, well, we're not the first owners kasi of the land. So the land that we had bought, apparently the family had to sell for hard times. And so I guess since it was hard times, there probably was a lot of negativity. I don't know. But it sounded like it. And maraming puno on the property. And the worst. So we like tore down the house, constructed our own. And then yung entertainment room, which is basically at one point in my college life where I lived playing such long hours on the Wii. Ano siya, floor to ceiling glass window. Tapos garden beyond. And then trees.
Yes.
So, parang at night, syempre, i-off na lahat ng ilaw kasi conserve electricity. So, parang sobrang stress palagi kasi gusto ko pang maglaro. Pero feeling ko may nanonood sa akin na BV from the tree line. So, parang, let's let me play Okami in peace.
Okami
the best. So, that one took me 72 hours to finish.
72 hours?
No, because like I'm the type of person who has to do all the side quests.
Okay.
It's just how I play. So, yeah.
Given the stories you've heard in your personal experiences, what learnings have you gotten from the people you've talked to, or something that stuck with you na parang it changed your outlook? Is there anything like that?
Good question. Because honestly, I just treat my show like story time. It's like, yay, an hour of stories from me. So learnings, don't be a dick, especially to things that you have no idea about, because you never know how that's gonna bite you in the ass.
Yeah.
That, and there's a lot more out there that we don't know about, that we don't have a grasp on.
Yeah.
So, wag ka magmarunong.
Oo.
Uh, it's pretty humbling and also kind of exciting in a sense that there's more out there that may not be your experience specifically, but it's so cool to hear about people with all of these different types of experiences. Not that I want them for myself,
Yes.
because I don't. Um, I had this guest on, good friend of mine, si Gogo. His episode was pretty stressful because most of his stories, so Gogo and Magic, two
Mhm.
separate episodes, but both their stories corroborated each other's,
Yes.
which is great. But basically, their stories also were in a recording studio.
Mm.
And those were episodes that we were still recording in person kasi pre-pandemic pa siya.
Yes. Yes.
So that was pretty stressful. But also really interesting, especially when experiences start to align.
Yes.
Because one of them, I think at one point, well, that night I was in the other room and this
Yeah.
is what I saw.
Yeah.
So great. And the thing is, I had been to the place that they were talking about.
Yeah.
And I was like, that was one of, at that point, wala pa akong alam about that
Oo.
place. And
Oo.
this episode had happened years after I went there.
Yeah.
And that was one of the places na I went in and I was like, spidey senses be tingling.
Yes.
Ayoko mag-isa.
Oo.
Kasama sa banyo.
Oo.
Yun. So parang, interesting. And it's like sort of to different degrees. Kasi nga, yung spidey senses ko
Yes.
are very parang starter pack.
Yes.
And okay lang kasi I want it at that level.
Yes. Oo.
I just want to know if I'm in danger. And then I'm okay na. I don't need to know what it is. I don't need to see it. I don't need to hear it. But they corroborate that feeling with those things that they see and
Yes.
hear.
Mm-mm.
So that's like parang, I guess one of the interesting things is that even if you're having the same experience, there are so many different layers to it.
Mhm. Yeah.
So parang always sort of be open to looking at the same thing from different angles. So that's always like that was one of the more interesting thoughts I had after hearing all these stories.
Quick question. Nire-relate ko lang to with the people I've talked to. What you call your spidey sense is again similar to the experiences and the, let's say, sensitivities of people we've talked to. And I'm just trying to pinpoint what kind of sense it is. Do you get that spidey sense towards living people? I mean, when you go into a meeting to someone you haven't met, and then if there's something wrong, parang may na-feel akong bad vibes sa person na to.
Yeah, all the time.
Okay.
And so that's why I've been called super judgy.
Yeah.
But yeah, but I listen a lot to my gut, especially when I meet with people for work.
Yeah.
Because I know that people are often discouraged from doing this, but parang I find that it's something that adds more information for me. You know, people are always like, don't be emotional. You're judging too fast. You don't know the person yet. Meow, 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 meow. But for me, like, parang labo ng pitik ng mata niya eh. Alam mo yun? Or parang bad vibes, hindi ko ma-explain.
Hindi mo
Pero
ma-explain,
parang
yes.
yung titig niya may iba. Or like, parang ganun. So, yeah, I do use these sort of, I don't know if it's like gut feel, intuition, like
Empathy. It is empathy.
empathy,
I think,
pakiramdaman.
yes, I think it is empathy. Parang, pero, again, correct me if I'm wrong, tinatry ko lang place yung ability to kagad, parang X-Men, yung sensitivity mo. Parang, do you get that same feeling sometimes when, kahit positive vibes, meaning if you're talking to someone, okay.
Absolutely.
So it is empathy.
Yeah, maybe it's just empathy plus. Who knows? But like I do get it whether it's positive or negative. So if super good vibes yung person, parang, I feel like, there are times na parang, bakit ngayon pa lang tayo nag-meet? Sobrang, like, gets kita, gets mo ako. Tas sobrang, and even in a work situation, parang, we are gonna be friends. We are gonna work together and it's gonna be great. But there have been also episodes where there are people that I've talked to for the first time,
Okay.
but they feel like old friends. And that's what happened on Kat's episode,
Yeah.
on Husmile's episode. Yeah, it's just parang nafe-feel ko yung vibe ng person or yung energy ng person. And there are also interviews that I've cut short kasi ang pangit ng feeling. No offense.
Titignan.
No offense, no offense. But like,
Check ako sa time ng iba mong episode. Okay, sige.
not necessarily because they're
Yeah.
bad people. It may be like they're going through something
Yeah.
like heavy or like, they're having a bad day or something.
Actually, yun yung, that's one of the things na, nako, advice, pero it's one of the things I've heard from people who have the same sensitivity as you, the empathy. Sometimes, you have to identify if that emotion is coming from you or someone else. So, kunyari, merong part of the office may nega na office mate. Bigla ka, hindi mo alam na nagagalit ka rin, kahit hindi mo naririnig kasi na-absorb mo yung negativity. And they tell me, and they tell other people, there are ways to shield yourself from outside emotions. Kasi sometimes, for no, again, I don't know if this happens to you, but sometimes for no reason, you get super angry and you don't know why, or you get super happy and you don't know why. Kasi baka yun nga, you're feeding off the emotions of other people. And there are ways to block yourself in a way.
I usually just chalk that up to my hormones, but hey, that could be an option. Yeah, maybe. Look, I really don't know. Like, seriously, there's no sophistication on this from my end. It's super intuition, and it's not something that I am looking to develop.
Okay.
Because once I go in that direction, I feel like parang it begins. Alam mo yun?
Yes. Baka.
No, for sure,
Yeah.
because I actually, and I don't know if this helped, but yun nga, hearing these stories of me nga daw as a kid, seeing things or feeling things. Diba, as a kid, I told you that I was into, like witchy stuff, vampires, ghost stories.
Yeah.
Pero sobrang like scaredy cat talaga ako. So at one point, I'm gonna say maybe early teens, I actually did this thing. And I didn't like pick it up from anywhere. I just thought, hey, why not? So I visualized there being an eye in the middle of my forehead.
Okay.
And I visualized myself closing it.
Okay.
And just like, parang, just as in visualizing myself slowly closing it shut. Na parang ang bigat niya. Tas parang pag shut niya, parang, I pictured myself like sewing it shut, putting boards on it, shutting it down. And ever since then, it's really only been like the heebie-jeebies. And up until Richie's episode, which and then he was like, oops, I forgot to tell you that when I do these things with people, it kind of opens them up a bit.
Yeah.
So I kind of did it again. I'm just like, nope.
You did
Close
the
that
thing
up.
again. Yeah.
Shut that down.
Yeah.
So, yun.
I remembered niya with this episode, one of his stories was he would be asked sometimes to, close the eye of this child or open the eye of this person. So he was able to do that. So ako parang I haven't heard anyone else being able to do that na without the consent in a way na parang you can close or you open the eyes of people.
I think when he does it though, it's always with consent.
Okay.
of the person. I
Mm-mm.
think it's super unethical. I don't think he would be the type of person to do it like without
Without
anyone's
oo.
consent. And that's also super unethical.
Yeah.
Kawawa naman yung person.
Oo, 'di ba? Bubuksan mo na lang yung third eye. Okay, last few questions.
Go lang.
Eventually, what is your goal with your podcast? I mean, yes, you say it's just story time, pero I see you're evolving in a way na I think that was the last season where you tied up with an illustrator. Was that not correct?
Oh yeah,
Yeah.
that was fun. And
Mm-mm.
also kind of spur of the moment.
Okay.
um he is a teacher actually, and he does illustrating on the side of like scary stuff,
Yeah.
especially for Spooktober. And
Mm-mm.
he guessed it on my show, and then I was just like, hey, want to do this thing? And he was just like, yeah, game. So that that was not a calculated social media strategy. Again, this podcast is something I do for fun. I really don't know where I'm going with it.
Okay.
Like it's just
It's okay.
story time and more
Yeah.
story time. I hope to keep going as long as there are guests and people willing to like chat about it and tell me their stories. I feel like I'm gonna keep going, but I'm never going to do 3 seasons in a year ever again. Ever. Like that was such a bad idea. Like that, especially this the third eye season. Bad idea, bear. Because that was the year that it got really intense. Yung talagang gigising ako in the middle of the night. This was pre-Richie.
Yes. Richie pa ba? Okay.
Well, this was his season,
Yes,
but
oo.
that season of where I had decided, hey, it's the third season. Let's interview people with third eyes. Put a theme to it. That wasn't a great idea. In a sense that it was really intense and like their stories were super scary and
Mm-mm.
sort of the way they told them,
Mm-mm.
it was just so matter of fact.
Yes, oo.
Na parang uh I'm freaking out a bit. Yeah, and then sunod-sunod.
Yes, oo. Mm-mm.
So actually, back to my mom and her priest friend, I was doing that season, and again, that was the most intense season in terms of the cuento of the types of stories that they would tell me. Like the scariest story I think I've ever heard on Grimcast was in that season, in episode one of that season from my friend RM. Her house in Baguio. They have this
Okay.
ghost called the crawler. It
Yes.
crawls
Yes.
on the walls, which is like um so anyway, I was doing the season, and one day my mom messages me and saying, hey, so are you still doing that podcast thing? And I was like, yeah. So don't know why randomly, but I was in my prayer circle sharing group earlier, and the priest friend like just kind of looked at her and said, whatever your daughter is doing, you have to tell her to stop. And at that point, he hadn't been to the no, he had been to the studio, but he didn't know I was doing this.
Yes.
Um, so he was like, whatever she's doing, she has to stop. She's becoming a beacon. And this message comes out of the blue while I'm recording that third eye season.
Yes.
Sobrang, the stress. And so I was just like, of course I tell my mom, okay, thanks, I'll think about it. Of course, I'm not gonna stop doing this.
Oo.
Tama tayo, diba? Pero,
Oo.
kind of stressed because I'm like, I'm becoming a beacon for Mumu. This is really fucking stressful, man. So yeah, apparently there's that beacon shit, and that's where the ritual, like
Yeah.
the cleansing, the post episode exit stage left, please,
Mm-mm.
like really helped. So yeah.
So to segue, when is the next season coming out?
So in true fashion, I'm getting married this Halloween.
Oh, okay.
So I expect that leading up to it, I'm going to be super busy. So I'm still sort of toying with the idea of, should I record a bunch of episodes, just like cram this as I do with everything else in my life, or actually focus on getting married?
Yes, focus on marriage.
Yeah, so probably, so I'm not super sure if it's
Yeah.
going to come out this Halloween, but if not Halloween, then of course, Holy Week,
Yeah.
back to regularly
Mm-mm.
scheduled programming. um, there, you can also join the group.
Ah, yes. Okay.
Um,
Tell us about the group,
well, it's just
Facebook
Grimcast.
group. Okay.
It's a Facebook group called Grimcast, a group for ghosts and ghouls. Um, Sometimes it has a life of its own. Sometimes it goes to sleep. So basically, it's where people who listen to the show or people who have been on the show share stories sometimes, or comments on episodes, or dank memes. Depends. It's, but the general vibe is all things spooky.
Is there anything you'd like to? I'll follow the format of your show. Is there anything you'd like to
Ah,
promote? Yeah.
um, well, since Grimcast is already very well mentioned, I guess I would like to promote the studio through which I
Yes.
record Grimcast through. It's called Big Baby Studios. It's a recording studio in San Juan. Um, we record musicians, but also do voiceover work, post production, sound design, arranging, jingles, that sort. Um, you can find us on Facebook at facebook.com/bigbbabystudios, or you can visit our website at www.itsabigbaby.com. So if you want to imagine what a doctor shouts when a baby comes out,
Yeah.
it's abigbaby.com.
Actually, meron akong question di ko pa natanong. I wasn't
Go,
able
go,
to ask it.
go.
Kasi I think you've openly said it naman that you studied and were there any experiences there na yung parang pagpasok mo parang
Um, the whole building of the org building
yes,
was really stressful. And the thing is, I was in an org. So the thing is, in have residency, right?
yes.
We have this thing called Tambay Champion. So that's basically the person with the most residency hours
Okay.
in that week. And the whole point of that is so people can immerse themselves with like-minded individuals, talk about art, chenis. And there was a point where I would get there like super early. Like all my breaks would be there and then stay until super late at night. So that said, it's on the fifth floor, right? It's basically two offices na pahaba.
Mm-mm.
Tapos may office sa harap, may office sa likod, and that's in the same room. And then the office beside
Partitions.
us, yeah, partitions in that same room. So yung kapartition namin was the yearbook. And
Mm.
then the office right beside us, na may wall, pero may window, is, and then the one in the back is, they
Okay.
put the newspapers together.
Yeah.
Um, so,
Fifth floor. Okay.
fifth floor. And the thing is, di ba may kwento sa building na yun that someone died in the elevator? That's why it never worked.
I did not know that.
Oh my God. So here's the tea.
Okay.
um, that elevator has not worked for the longest
Yes.
time. As in, for us na nag-residency sa fifth floor,
Yes.
hassle siya. Pero cardio, great,
Yeah,
I guess. So, all of us were like, bakit ba wala elevator? Rar. And the urban legend is, somebody had gone into the elevator and it was pa weekend, end of day Friday,
Mm-hmm.
gotten stuck. Like it had malfunctioned or something.
Yeah.
And then, unfortunately, di siya nahanap until the following week.
Okay.
And unfortunately, I'm not sure if it was a student or a teacher or the person had passed away.
Okay.
That's the story. That's the urban
Yeah.
legend. So I don't know if it's real. But apparently now it works. So unfair. Sorry. No. This was my friend Misha. His mom studied in the education building
Mhm.
in
Okay.
parang tatlo lang yung floor ng building. Dalawa or tatlo.
Mm-mm.
And she was running late. Tapos, parang, syempre, if you're running late, patakbo ka na lang, di ba?
Yes.
And her class was on the topmost floor. So, dire-diretso lang siya. Until she realized, parang nasa fourth floor na ako. Walang fourth floor yung building na to. But, it was for sure the right building.
Mm-mm.
So, she was like, parang she was like, nasa ibang dimension ba ako or something. So, takbo na lang siya pabalik. And then, parang, I'm not sure if this is the story, pero parang sinabi niya sa guard, parang, kuya, may nangyari sa akin. Parang may additional floor yung building. And parang yung response ng guard is, mabuti na lang nakaalis kayo. Like, great.
So may na-stuck na doon, in other words. Just
I don't know.
Yeah.
There was another story, I think it was basta one of the buildings. It was a guard, like a roving guard. And then, again, I'm not sure if I'm remembering this right, but parang the person was either a teacher or a student. Tas, stuck siya in school for some reason. Either baha or like something. Couldn't leave. So, wanted to go back to the classroom. Tapos doon na lang siya tatambay. Tapos parang nakita daw siya ng guard doon. Tapos parang, sir, anong ginagawa niyo dyan? Siyempre, parang after hours. They're like, oh, nagpapalipas lang. And then he was like, sige sir, pero wag na wag kayong aalis. Like, wag kayong aalis ng room. Iwan ko lahat ng lights na bukas. You can stay here, but do not leave. Even if someone asks you to leave. Basta it's not me. So, parang she's like, huh? Why? Basta sir, diyan ka lang. Basta diyan ka lang. And then, not sure if it was explained later on, pero generally may kababalaghang nangyayari after hours or something.
Mm-mm.
In the old library, yun din, super creeps. But I personally have not seen anything there. But I have heard, kasi parang in that old library, for some reason, parang may aquarium sa gitna. Na, parang may glass window. Tapos parang, I heard someone tell a story na, andun daw siya sa loob, tapos parang on the other side, may dumadaang headless priest situation. So, there's a lot of those stories in LaSalle.
Mm-mm.
Oh, my friend Joni's the one who guessed it on Grimcast. Her grandmother was in the LaSalle massacre.
Oh my. Yes, I remember that.
Yeah, that was a really intense story. And then she woke up in Saints ko.
Oo.
Kasi hospital yung Saints ko.
Grabe.
So, hospital yung Saints ko.
So marami rin daw.
Yeah. Okay, just the other day, one of our teachers from high school, nag-post siya ng throwback pics. Pero yung mga nakakatakot lang na area ng school.
Yeah.
Tapos ang dami sa aming nag-reply na parang, miss naman, bakit ganyan? Like, nag-post siya ng one of the scariest parts of the school, in my opinion, is this old bathroom in the physics lab. Tapos, it's, yung physics lab kasi namin, ano siya, parang theater style.
Yeah.
Pababa.
Mm.
And then, attached to it, so it's the pababa, the board. To the right of the board, there's a door.
Okay.
Through that door, it's the lab.
Mm-hmm.
And then at the end of the lab, there's another door. And through that door is a bathroom for that lab.
Mm-hmm.
In that, so it's like a row of 3 rooms.
Yes.
In that bathroom, for some reason, the mirrors are ripped out. The tiles are super old. Like, you know how those white old tiles look na parang may crack, pero yung crack old na rin.
Yes.
That's the wood on the doors. Parang the doors are strangely short.
Yeah.
From the bottom and the top.
Mm-mm.
So parang every time you go to the bathroom there, like, talagang nakatingin ka sa taas kasi parang natatakot kang may titingin sa baba sa'yo. Or like sa baba may titingin pataas. So parang hindi
Oo.
mo alam kung saan ka titingin. So that's also one of the bathrooms na sobrang no shame magpapasama ako. Kahit in the middle of class. As in like, Mas, I'm sorry. Magpapasama ako sa bathroom. I'm so sorry. And magigets nila.
Yes.
Yeah, and then the whole story about the mirrors being ripped out is because kids kept seeing things. No, I just rip them out.
Stress. Grabe.
Yeah, and you can see the bolts.
You can still see
And
the balls.
you can see the bolts where it was bolted in and the outline of where the mirror was.
So
Not
have
tatlo.
you asked teachers or faculty why it's there?
The thing is, it had been so long. The school is really old, right?
Yeah.
None of our teachers were there when that happened. So all they know are the urban legends also. Of course, they will say, "Hi, sus, but don't focus on that. Focus on your studies, mga tiya." So, syempre, so nobody would get a straight answer. And neither would they tell us also.
Yes, of course. Especially pag ano.
Good times.
Oo. Pero nakakatawa when you said that na kailangan mong CR, magsi-CR ka. I've heard stories from people na they will say na, oh, I'll avoid the CR na lang. Kasi may something doon, I'll avoid. Talagang para willing sila magkasakit because ayaw nila mag-CR. At least ikaw para, hindi. Kailangan, papasama ka lang. Ito check ko sa'yo if may nakwento sa'yo yung mga guest mo na sensitive ba. For some reason, when they look at a picture, sometimes they see something and it moves. Parang similar to Harry Potter.
What?
They
Sorry,
see
what do you mean?
They
In
see,
the picture?
Yeah, in the picture. I'm not sure. Ask your friends na sensitive. For some of them, when they look at the picture, it moves. They see that entity moving.
The person in the picture or like...
Spirits or elementals in the picture.
I've never heard that before.
You ask
That's
them.
pretty cool.
You ask them. And they get curious rin sometimes nga daw. They peek. Yun nga, similar sa White Lady ni Richie. Parang they get curious when we talk about them.
Good times.
Good times.
Why do we do this to ourselves?
Good vibes. Ganun talaga.
Yeah, that's kind of also why the tone of my show, I really like to keep it light.
Yeah.
And I like to end it light.
Yeah.
Kasi paminsan, heavy yung ibang kinikwento talaga. And like some of them involve like deaths and stuff.
Yeah.
Some of them involve aswang.
Anong belief mo sa aswang, if I may ask?
You know, same as elementals.
Okay.
I don't know, at one point they could have existed talaga or they exist. Maybe it's a species, maybe it's like, I don't know. It's they very much still believe it in the provinces.
Yes.
And it's really a lot more alive where there's so much more nature. So look, I don't know. I don't know if they exist or if they don't, but if it's something that can eat me, I'd rather not piss it off. That's my belief.
And then we can end on that note of it eating you. At least good vibes.
Yeah, just so the lesson for today is just don't piss it off and you'll be fine.
Yeah. Respect whatever it is that you cannot see. Diba?
Yeah. That's a good note to end it on. Sorry, ang daming digressions.
Okay lang. That's how we have it naman. Wala namang clear ano. So at this point, nagkaroon ng technical glitch at di natuloy yung recording sa end nila, Antonette. Nagka-analysis kung anong nangyari. Pero we decided baka may playful stuff lang sa kanila.
Huwag mo akong maltahin dito ako matulog.
Hindi yan. Feeling ko, bantayin nila sa house or bantayin ng dad niya or ng family.
It's been said.
No? Oh, EJ, kaklap-clap ka dyan.
I don't know what that means. Clap once for yes.
Sige, EJ, nakamute ka.
Direct sensitive.
Hindi. Ano lang naman, chismis. Kasi ina-assume ko, yung dad niya receptive to that entity. So malamang, he's heard of it before. Parang ganun. I'm just...
Or earlier, there was this bulong.
You sure it wasn't just me?
No. It's a male bulong.
Okay.
That's why I asked in the chat, in one of the group, I asked, "Oh, did you hear that whisper.
Ano sabi?
No, just bulong. It's just a low, like that.
Was it like, Tanet, tama na yan. Iniintay ka na ni PV. Wait, okay.
Inaudible. And then Batis also said he heard something like that.
I was also told by the priest family friend, that because we do have a lot of gadgets, it like the energy buzzing from those gadgets also is part of what attracts.
Mm.
But yung the kwento naman with the elemental, or I don't know if it's still Mugay, but yeah, he just like kind of has a lot of fun here, and he isn't like harmful. He isn't troublesome.
Mhm.
He's just like very intrigued. That's the vibe that even my partner's dad has always gotten. Parang very interested with what everyone is doing here, like all the creative work.
And he helps finish projects, di ba?
Yeah, which
So
is
that-
great. Isn't that like the best? Yeah. Yun.
Batis, ano meaning mo you were transported to that physics lab?
Are you also
Kasi
secretly-
ano to, earlier when she was describing the physics lab, I don't know, I had this scenario. It's like I was walking in the actually the mirrors in the CR, they were removed, if I'm not mistaken. They were removed kasi there had been experiences or events wherein sobrang daming nakakaramdam and nagpaparamdam. So, ang solution na ginawa nila, just remove the mirrors. Kasi the mirrors are acting as a portal.
Yeah.
Ah.
Yes. And then, ayun nga, when I was doing the walk papunta dun sa CR, that's when I heard the voices. And then the funny thing, I was thinking, oh, okay, cool, may sound effects. And then I realized, wait, this is a live recording. Paano
Oo.
It's
nagkaroon ng
not that
sound
kind of
effects?
show.
Oh, good vibes! Good
So,
vibes!
pero I mean, it's kind of parang funny thing about that physics lab bathroom is in my high school kasi you're paired up with a senior when you're a freshman.
Mhm.
And that's how I was supposed to be initiated, that
Yeah.
they were supposed to bring me to that bathroom, shut off all the lights.
Yeah.
But my wonderful big sis, that's what you call your counterpart. She was like, "Uy guys, wag na." Nakawa naman siya. I'm like, yes! Maawa kayo sa akin, don't do that. Oh, but they just told me after na, she's like, I love you, big sis, thank you. Open portal yung mirror dun sa part na yun and it's affecting the students. Yup. It's super stressful. Like, even if may kasama na ako sa bathroom, nakatingin pa rin ako sa taas kasi feeling ko talaga may dudungaw. Ugh. And like of course, the seniors, when they try to scare you, they say like, it's a nun, and it looks at you and it just starts smiling. Thanks so much.
Well, yun naman ang job ng seniors.
I know, right? Ginawa
To
ko rin.
torment. Ginawa mo rin yun. Ayun naman pala eh.
I'm so sorry to my little sisters. Anyway, I mean, if you guys want to stop recording and just like hang out, that's fine.
Yeah, sige. Okay. A big thank you to Antonette for agreeing to guest and of course for making Grimcast Manila another resource for people like me who enjoy listening to other people's spooky experiences. Thank you also to Jade actually who connected me to Antonette. Recruiter rin actually si Jade. Madami rin siyang referral. So thank you Jade. Sana di ka nabisitahin ng mga aswang mong kapitbahay. If you haven't subscribed or followed Grimcast Manila on your podcast platform, I suggest you start now. Masyado ko pinupush. But you can start with episode 304. Richie, the Ghost Whisperer. Still one of my favorite episodes. If musician ka and may pa-record ka, try nyo na rin yung Big Baby Studios. In case this is the first episode of the podcast you are listening to, hello and welcome to the Paranormal Podcast. The podcast is a collection of interviews with first-hand experiencers of the paranormal, similar to Grimcast. Most of the stories are Philippine-based, but from time to time, I get to talk with people from different parts of the world, where we get to see the similarities and differences of the global paranormal phenomena. If you have unusual paranormal stories you'd like to share, you can always email me at paranormalsph@gmail.com. If you'd prefer to share your story via chat with other like-minded individuals, you can join our Discord server where there are different chat threads for different paranormal interests. To join the Discord server, you just need to click on the invite link in the show notes. So it's under this, if you're watching on YouTube, it's under this video. If you're listening on Spotify, it is below the episode. Just scroll down and the show notes will all be there. If you enjoyed this type of conversation and storytelling, maybe you'd like to subscribe and be informed every time we have a new episode. You can check us out on Facebook, Spotify, YouTube, and sometimes TikToks. TikToks. There are new episodes every Tuesday, 7 p.m. on Spotify and every 1:37 p.m. on YouTube. Okay, we have reached my favorite section. Next favorite. The comment section, where I read comments from different social media channels. For tonight, we are reading the comments from Pagpag Sessions Intramuros episode. So from Isabeth, she says, I was 8 when I went there. 27 na ako ngayon living in the States. For me, it was a peaceful place and it felt na maraming tao kahit hindi naman crowded. Actually, I've heard this from other experiences as well, Isabeth. Para masikip daw yung ilang parts ng Intramuros. Masikip meaning parang maraming tao, yun yung pagkaintindi ko. Pero nisip ko baka dahil mainit lang, di ko alam eh. Or baka rin yung energy na naiwan sa lugar. Kamusta naman dyan sa States, Isabeth? Anong areas dyan ang feeling mong crowded kahit konti ang tao? Balataan mo na lang kami. Thank you for reaching out. Si Christy naman sabi, may mabigat na feeling lalo doon sa parang tunnel. This is in reference to Intramuros. Kahit hindi naman ganun karami ang tao. Parang pare-pareho na feel nyo ni Isabeth no Christy. Ito yung sinasabi ng ilang sensitive na kulob yung feeling. Naalala ko, actually, nung nasa tunnel ako, parang kulob yung feeling. Yun yung na-feel ko. Parang alam mo, parang stale air. Parang ganun yung best way for me to describe it. Pero again, ako yun. And manhid ako. From Cheryl naman, papunta pa lang kami sa Intramuros. Sana may kakaiba kaming maramdaman. Talaga lang, Cheryl Kamusta? So, medyo matagal mo na itong panost. So, kamusta? Ano nga ba nangyari sa Intramuros trip nyo? May kakaiba ka bang na-experience? Ayan. Email or kwento mo na lang sa sa chat or sa email or sa Discord. Ikaw na bahala. Ang ating suki na heartbroken. Ito na si Sky Grisford. May comment dito. Alam mo, Sky Grisford, tatanong ko lang, membro ka na ba ng singles only? Mapait pa sa Ampalaya chat group? Kasi palaging mapait ang mga comment mo. Sabi niya, sa Intramuros ako na-ghost ng niligawan ko. Kaya nakakatakot talaga dyan. Na-ghost pala si Sky Grisford sa Intramuros. Sige. Iwas ka na lang dyan, Sky Grisford. Baka iba pa sumama sa'yo dyan. Magiging never be lonely ka na. Sabi naman ni T-Mad, naging mas interesado ako lalo sa paranormal since nag-start ako makinig sa podcast nyo. Pero syempre super takot rin ako kaya hanggang kinig na lang ako. More power to you and the whole crew, Direk. Salamat sa pakikinig, T-Mad. Salamat rin syempre sa lahat ng nag-share ng mga kwento nila. Gaya naman nung sinabi ko before, kung walang nag-share, wala rin mabubuo na podcast. Pero alam ko yung feeling na yan, T-Mad. Nasabi ko na rin to dati, pero again, sinabi ko na before. Super duwag talaga ako. And nung sinimulan ko yung podcast. And yun nga, dahil na lang sa mga narinig kong kwento, mas naintindihan ko na rin yung posibleng nangyayari. Hindi ko sinasabing 100% sure ako. Feeling ko mayroon akong vague understanding kung ano yung nangyayari sa mundong hindi nga nakikita. Hopefully, umabot ka rin doon. Di ko sinasabing hindi na ako takotin. Pero mas hindi na gaya ng dati. Salamat sa lahat na nag-comment and syempre salamat sa lahat ng nag-reach out. Syempre hindi natin makakalimutan magpasalamat at bumati sa ating paranormal Patreons and coffee supporters. Sunny, J, Z, JT, JD, K, B, Justine, Leah, May, Shibone, and Ola. Maraming salamat. If you want to support the podcast in that way, you can also check out our Patreon and Coffee. Or you can support us through YouTube. Mayroon parang feature doon. I just turned it on, hindi ko pa siya inaral. Pero you get the same perks sa Patreon if you do it through YouTube. You can check out these links in the show notes. Pero syempre, pwede namang mag-support in other ways. You can share your favorite episode to someone who you feel might be interested in the topics that we talk about. And syempre, by listening to the episodes, you're helping. You're helping in so many ways. So thank you for that. Looking at the stats nga rin, I can see that a lot of you who are listeners are not following or subscribe to Spotify or YouTube. So baka yun, you can do that. In that small way, you are also helping. I promise you. So thank you. So huwag kayo mag-alala kung mag-subscribe or follow kayo. Once a week lang naman ako magparamdam. Hindi ako makulit. Okay. The Paranormal Podcast is engineered and produced by F90 Productions. And I would like to thank all the listeners and thank all the people who share their stories. And thanks to the spirits in the unseen world who probably influence other people to share their stories. Again, the more stories we hear, the more experiences help us understand this world that we do not see. Thank you everyone for listening. Please stay safe. Andyan pa ba kayo? Okay, gaya syempre ng ating favorite movies. Well, ako favorite ko yung may mga pa-after credits na mga pahabol. I suggest panoorin nyo yung YouTube version nito. Coming out Thursday next week. So the morning after our conversation ni Antonette, merong creepy thing na nangyari sa area nila. So yung dog nila, pinatulog nila kasama nila that night. Kesa sa studio kung saan usually yung dog nagsistay. Pero biglang non-stop daw yung notification ng CCTV nila na nakalagay sa studio. So makikita nyo sa screenshot na yun nga, ang theory ni Antonette, mga rooster or ibang aso sa labas. So to be sure, nag-check siya ng video recording kasi sinet daw niya yung camera to follow motion pag may gumagalaw sa loob ng studio. So sabi nga ni Antonette, it turned out to be an orb party. So, share ko yung videos na sinend niya, kayo na humusga. According to Antonette, this never happened before. The CCTV has been there for months. So, ang labo na ngayon lang nag-a-adjust sa refracting light. Tsaka sabi niya nga, the glass doors are surrounded by the garage and a wall. So, it couldn't have been a passing car to shine that light on the orbs, sabi niya. Sabi ko naman, they're just happy you're beginning to accept your sensitivities. So hindi ko alam. So sagot niya parang everyone saying hi to the camera. Kasi yun nga, they're all flying towards or past the camera. Tingnan nyo, I mean, it's up to you to decide and believe what you want to believe. So minsan talaga, I guess, na-excite ang ating astral neighbors pag in-acknowledge natin ang presence nila. May paramdam na kakaiba. Naalala ko tuloy yung nangyari kay Doc nung nakita niya finally yung isang duwende na kasama niya. I guess parang tao lang minsan talaga natutuwa pag pinapansin. Para sa mga dito, sa kwarto ko ngayon, kung meron man, di nyo kailangan magpapansin. Alam ko naman na nandiyan kayo. So, peace tayo. Okay? Okay, yun na muna. Parang Parang nagka-goosebumps ako at nagpaparamdam. Sige lang, peace lang tayo. Okay, thank you. Ingat tayo.